Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing inspiring stories from business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors on the pursuit of wealth and financial freedom. This episode of the Inspire to Invest podcast has been brought to you by the Wealth Club. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire to Invest. I've got Steve Arneson here with me from Victoria, BC today, and he is the CEO of the Reinvestors and the co-founder of Synergy Mastermind. He is a prominent figure in real estate with a passion for the outdoors and planning his future with his fiance. His mission is to redefine real estate perceptions, encouraging people to achieve passive income, long-term wealth, and financial independence to lead a more fulfilling life. Through engaging speeches and personal guidance, Steve aims to inspire genuine happiness and personal growth while dedicating his spare time to outdoor pursuits and seeking innovative breakthroughs in real estate to transform lives and unlock limitless potential. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here today. How are you?
Karina, I'm awesome. It's so nice to see you. Thanks for having me today.
So obviously I gave you this glowing introduction, but maybe you can take us back to
Sounds
the
like an
very
awesome
beginning.
person.
He was like, I like him. Maybe you can walk me back to the very beginning and how real estate, came into your life and then really became this pivotal component.
Yeah, I kind of joke that I started real estate in the womb because I come from a bit of a real estate family. Although I had to earn my own stripes through the processes, but growing up, mom would drag me to like open houses on weekends, and like literally, I thought that like there'd be times where I'd have like my girlfriend at the time in the back seat, and we'd be going to like the movies or something. But no, she would take me to an open house instead.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
then, growing up, we bought old kind of run down places, and we just put in a lot of sweat equity. So I saw it happening around me all the time.
Yeah.
My great grandfather bought an apartment building just a couple blocks away from where I live now. Grandfather was in it, aunts and uncles were in it. Other side, like my grandparents flipped home. So it's just sort of like it's in my blood.
Yeah.
And I bought my first live-in flip in 2012 and then got into doing like joint venture partnerships on income properties and small burrs in 2015. Scaled up a nice little rental portfolio here in Victoria, British Columbia. And then that sort of graduated into some smaller multifamilies, some more medium-sized multifamilies. And as I grew, as the business grew, as the market evolved, we jumped into doing development projects as well here in Victoria and a couple throughout British Columbia. And now a lot of my focus goes into the Synergy Mastermind side of things and helping everybody else go through that process of things that I've learned in the past and bring in expert speakers to come and inspire us, motivate us, and educate us on how to become better leaders in our communities and, for our team and how to run better businesses.
So now can you talk a little bit about your growing pains? So going from that first situation where you're kind of essentially house hacking and then you started taking on larger projects and stuff like that, how did you grow and scale? And is there anyone that kind of helped you through that process?
Yeah, like the biggest thing that I think so many people don't talk about is usually like that first big bottleneck where you get into for me I was doing house hacking like you said, like doing like these small duplex to fourplex or fiveplex like multifamily burrs. And so we picked up a few of them. And as the portfolio grows and as sort of your ambitions grow, your problems grow too. And at one point, when you get about, I don't know, is it like 15 doors? Is it 25? I'm not sure, but a few different properties, you start pulling your hair out because you have tenants calling you all the time. You have contractors going in for like little tiny repairs. You've got inspections going on. You're looking at a whole bunch of different properties. You have investors that you're talking with, and all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, "Holy crackers!" Like I've got 18 different hats on and I only have the capacity for 12 of them. And you start holding up that SOS sign.
Yeah.
And so that's like
You're like
where,
financial freedom.
yeah, exactly. Freedom handcuffed though.
Yeah.
Um, and so like that was one of the biggest like things I felt was a little bit misled about kind of getting into like the income property space
Hmm.
was just all of the jobs that you take on.
Yeah.
And and so we had to figure out like what do we do? Like I had to quit my 9 to 5 job to manage what we wanted to grow and scale into. And we started having to learn how to delegate and how to become not just doers, but leaders in our businesses where we can become really great recruiters, really great communicators, And we had to start kind of chipping away at building a business behind the real estate that runs the real estate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can appreciate those growing pains. I feel like when you start to get to that point where you have to trust your business in the hands of other people, like it's actually really overwhelming, and just trying to figure out how to like let them do their thing and stuff like that when it is your name and your reputation and your legacy essentially that you're putting and trusting in someone else's hands.
It can be really overwhelming, especially when you're so used to being the hands-on doer and you have to transition out of that space into just like being able to visualize and architect the result that you want and then being able to communicate that result in a way that the other person or people are going to be able to see it and understand it and execute it too.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Now, can you talk about some of the lessons that you learned going through that process? Maybe what some of your biggest takeaways would be for someone that's just starting out or they're kind of at that bottleneck now and they're looking to get over it.
Yeah. The two things that I would share, one is recognizing where, like doing a time audit and recognizing where your gifts are and where your pain points are. And so if you can look at your calendar or the tasks that you have to do on a week to week or month to month or quarter by quarter basis
Yeah,
and figure out like what's really sucking either time away from you or energy or both and try to like try to push that off and delegate that first so that you
yeah,
can really put a lot of time and your attention and energy into the things that you actually like doing and
yeah,
that move the needle the most. Because there was times where I think the like we would hire somebody for the skills that I had because I knew how to like articulate those skills. And
yeah,
then I would go and do like the junk jobs, which I hated doing. And then 2 months later, I would be like, this is even worse.
yeah,
Right. So that's one. And the second biggest lesson, I think, like I would chip away at hiring better people, which usually comes with a higher price tag,
yeah,
but for less work than trying to compromise and pay somebody a smaller fee because, I'm budgeted, but who might just be like more of a generalist.
yeah,
And so I'd try to hire specifically, like try to work it out so you can get the creative with your properties or your business or your relationships so that you can bring in the experts to like take on the one thing
yeah,
instead of trying to like find somebody who can do it all and then they can't quite juggle it the same way that you do because you've had so many more years and
yeah.
of experience, more reps. So those would be like two of the biggest lessons that I learned probably the hard way.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, I think that when you are in business, obviously Dan Martell is one of your mentors. He talks about buying back your time and hiring these people. And I guess depending on the nature of your business, sometimes you could be in these really lucrative software businesses where there's a lot of money coming in. Well, if you're a small business, you may not necessarily have like an extra 200 grand lying around just to like pay somebody, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of have this balancing act between what you have now, what you have kind of coming in and anticipate coming in so that you can afford everybody for a certain amount of time. And it takes time to onboard people and things like that. So I think that's always a challenge for any new business. So I think you just have to look at that and be objective and onboard them appropriately and find the right systems in place so that they can excel at the role that you expect them to achieve.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that you can do if you're in that earlier stage is find somebody who's doing what you want to do or already trying to do
Yeah.
and like pay them whatever it is that they're looking for just for a consulting session so
Yeah.
they can understand your business and help you with business strategy
Yeah.
so that you can have a plan of attack on here's what I'm going to delegate first or here's what I'm going to jump into where I need to go create more revenue. How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And that'll be huge ROI as long as you can continue to commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Now, when you look back at, the last 10 to 12 years, what would you say is something that you're most proud of?
Oh, it's funny how we don't actually talk a lot about like that side of things. A lot of times it's more like the lessons of the hardships. But you know what? All along the way, I've tried to share the knowledge that I gain. And it started off with, a meetup here in Victoria when we first started. That's evolved into like social media, of course, but also like the Synergy Mastermind piece. And I'm really proud of just how um how that's helped other people. And that's always been my like, thank you, Dad, thank you, Mom, for just like raising a good human, pat on my own back or shoulders or whatever. But like I just want to see other people live happier, more successful lives and whatever that might be for like their own definition. And I think I'm just really grateful for the opportunity um, to go through some of these experiences and be able to share like, hey, don't do that ever, as well as here's what's working.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So, on that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Welcome to the Wealth Club, an exclusive community dedicated to elevating your journey towards financial freedom, well-being, and success. The journey to 1% starts here. Join like-minded leaders and commit to growth for the mind, body, bankroll, and soul. Learn all the proven techniques to change your life forever with direct access to a massive team of more than 10 tried and true experts. Moreover, members enjoy priority access to investment opportunities, job openings, and partnerships within the community. For just $1 a day, members gain entry to specialized forums covering a wide spectrum of fields, discover diverse income streams, new opportunities, collaborations, and employment. Partake in weekly Zoom calls with our team and join monthly live Q&A sessions. Compete and win cash prizes. Active members top the leaderboard for monthly rewards. Ready to get started? Join today to unlock your true potential. To sign up, go to school.com/The Wealth Club. I value transparency, integrity, and trust. If you choose to work with me, you can be assured that business will be conducted honestly and openly. Time is of the essence in this industry, so you can expect nothing short of quick, clear communication from me. I'll keep you informed every step of the way so you feel comfortable throughout this entire process. Our homes are where we eat, sleep, relax, and play. My clients' best interests are at the heart of everything I do. And with this said, my service to you doesn't end when the transaction does. As your realtor, I'll not only help you buy and sell your property, I'll also educate and support you along the way. I want to help you fulfill your goal of home ownership and become your trusted real estate resource for life. I can't wait to share my passion for real estate with you. More importantly, find you the perfect house to turn into your home. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in Durham Region or Toronto? Let's chat. Inspired to Invest is proud to support the Beyond Success program. In today's complex world, it's absolutely crucial for our youth to learn how to take charge of their financial future. We believe that every young person deserves access to accurate, practical financial information. Designed to bridge the gap, the Beyond Success program leverages a comprehensive educational bootcamp to equip young minds with essential financial literacy skills. At Beyond Success, it's not just about teaching financial literacy, it's also about fostering a foundation for a prosperous and empowered future. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspired to Invest. I've got Steve Arneson here with me from Victoria, BC, and he's one of the co-founders of the Reinvestors and Synergy Mastermind. And we've been talking about some of the challenges, lessons, and also successes with growing a real estate business. One of the things I always like to ask my guests is, what's the craziest thing you ever experienced as a real estate investor so far?
I mean, the last 2 years, like this is insane.
How much time do we have?
Yeah. Oh man, like there's been some funny things that we've found on site. And there's silly personalities that you bump into in this industry, whether it be people with, larger eyes than stomachs sort of thing, or just big egos or, funny mentors. But this last couple of years, like Serena, it's just been wild. Like whoever thought the rate at which rates were going to increase happened. It just feels like a total cluster F from, there was a storm in Texas in 21 or 22 that prevented a whole bunch of supplies getting to sites. Um, you know, Geopolitics have been interesting. It's just been, I like to geek out over the economic side of things, like like from a macro perspective, and then like slowly drill in because I think that data is like the recipe for success a lot of times in real estate because it's just like investment should be like more of a numbers game than an emotional play. Um, so I mean, yeah, long story short, the last 2 years have just been wild to see and witness and like be a part of the the thick of the storm. so that we can come out stronger on the other side.
For sure. Now, obviously, you're a big believer in education, and that's a big platform behind Synergy Mastermind. Can you talk a little bit about some of the best advice that you've received, or something that you would want to pass along to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, we can do a whole series of shows just on best advice over the last decade. I think one of the greatest things that that real estate and business really show you is that both, and especially if you're doing, real estate as a business, it is a guaranteed personal development plan. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I could give or that I've ever received is just like continue to work on yourself. Understand, where your strengths are, where your quote unquote weaknesses might be, and understanding like the roles of running a business and just like leaning more into that and constantly pushing yourself to kind of grow and be compassionate with people and um, not quite like real estate related, but it is. And real estate is very much a relationship industry, relationship game or whatnot. And you need to be able to be at your best so that you can give your best to your team, your investors, your community, and make sure that your portfolio grows the best as well.
Yeah, and I think you highlighted something really important there was just, the element of business when it comes to real estate is that I think a lot of times people go into this and they don't necessarily have the right foundation or education to treat it like a business appropriately and being a good ambassador of other investors' money. And I think that's something that's really been highlighted in the last year or two while these challenges have happened, right? So I think for
For
anyone
sure.
who is looking to grow, scale, or even just get started, to invest in some of that knowledge and education and make sure that you are growing appropriately so that you can grow for the future and build that legacy instead of, having setbacks. And they're to be expected, but I think there's also a lot that you can do to mitigate them along the way.
And I think like one of the hard parts about like getting into the right like sort of like educational space, whether it be like coaches or masterminds or like educational programs or whatever, is it's all sort of like fluff on the outside, right? So you really have to find the characters who are either teaching or running it
Yeah.
and get to know their personality and their levels of integrity, because that character is going to be building the culture of that business, which is going to be the results that you are going to witness.
Yeah. And I think also just the structure, right? Like I think one of my most successful mentorships was someone that literally spent 8 hours with me, analyzed my whole business, and came up with an action plan for 10 months. And it was like, do this by
Yeah.
this day, do this. And it was like, I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know how to get there. And you needed someone to literally draw you the map with all the places where you have to stop and do things, right? Where other times, if you're just talking about high level concepts, it can be really hard to put them into practice. And everybody learns differently and things like that. But for me, that was like the best $750 I ever spent on this mentorship exchange through a marketing association and, a mentor I'm still in touch with today being 10 years later. So again, I think you just have to think about the strategy and how you're going to put it into action.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at your portfolio, obviously you have grown, you've done a lot of different things. What would you say is next for you?
So I recently traveled through 4 or 5 different countries in Europe, and I'm really interested in some of that international investing. It was like one of my sort of like bucket list goals, North Stars when I first got into it, and then really niche down into my backyard.
Yeah.
And as politics have changed and regulation has changed in British Columbia and in Canada as a whole, you start looking elsewhere. And for me, like the U.S. isn't necessarily exciting. Um, it seems really saturated as well. So went and did some homework overseas. A mentor of mine does really high end, like VVIP type of um, short-term rentals. And so started looking at some of, the areas where you might be able to grow into that space.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as the market settles, I'm always going to be looking in my backyard too. There was a 11 unit I just looked at that could be like a seniors home facility, which I think is a brilliant idea here on the West Coast. But I think things are in a blender right now. For me, I'm just being patient for probably the next year, year and a half to really pick and choose the deals that I get into.
Yeah. Now, when you think about how real estate investing has changed your life, how do you think it looks to you now compared to what it could have looked like had you not gone down this path?
I hated my life along like 10 years ago. So I'm so glad that it came down this way. Like, despite all of the challenges and headwinds and personalities over the last couple of years, um, I was real estate was a bit of a savior for me.
Now, obviously, the name of this podcast is Inspired to Invest. So I like to ask people what's a particular quote that motivates or inspires them?
So I have a whole list of different quotes. And whenever I'm reading a book or listening to a podcast, I have a notepad on my phone that I pull up different quotes of. So one of the most recent ones was stop looking for answers and become the answer.
Is there anything you would want to leave anyone that is watching or listening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like if you're in Canada, like find the groups that are near you, find the people who are doing what you want to do, and there's enough time and space and energy and amazing people that you can like learn and grow for free and get some like hands-on experience. And if you're just starting off, like that's the best way to do this. If you're already like, if you already have a couple different properties and you want to continue to grow and scale, it's the same deal, just a different conversation. So find people who are having those different conversations and go into it with like the expectation of how can I provide value, and just authentically grow. And if you're trying to authentically grow, you will then implement and then grow. And people who are like quote unquote mentoring you love to see other people succeed. So if you continue to put in the action steps, they'll continue to want to help you.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Now, how can anyone reach you if they'd like to connect?
Best space for me is Instagram. So it's just at Steve Arneson Official.
Great. So we'll include that in the show notes below. Thank you, of course, for taking time out of your busy day to chat with everybody today. And for anyone that
My
is
pleasure.
listening, we appreciate your time as well. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe below. And you followed along on social at Inspire to Invest Podcast. And remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again. Thank you to the Wealth Club for bringing you this episode of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.